Some of these major corporations are learning that nothing is too big to fail. Here lately, ESPN's become synonymous with failure. No wonder they are so comfortable donating woke welfare to the failure of all failures, the queen of huge embarrassing failures, Bomani Jones. Someone actually emailed me the other day asking why I don't dedicate entire videos to Bomani Jones anymore. I mean, to be honest with you, I kind of got bored with it. There's only so many ways I can describe a failure of historical proportions. After a while, it's just not interesting. At this point, it would be interesting and surprising if the Bobo actually managed to find a way to succeed. But anyway, over the last few years, ESPN has become synonymous with failure. Multiple rounds of layoffs with more coming soon. Dismal ratings for the NBA Finals along with dismal ratings for their atrocious pre- and post-game shows. A radio division that is literally on life support. ESPN Radio used to be a juggernaut. They used to be the king of sports radio. When I was in college in the mid-2000s, the lineup on ESPN Radio was absolutely legendary. Mike and Mike in the morning. I never really liked the two Michaels. I thought they were bland, rather boring, but they did resonate with millions of listeners. I can't deny their success. Colin Cowherd. I thought Colin Cowherd was the best sports radio host in the country during the mid to late 2000s. Dan Patrick. Legendary. I can't emphasize enough how dominant ESPN Radio used to be. In my opinion, though, this was another case where the host became bigger than the platform. ESPN has never been able to replace Colin Cowherd and Dan Patrick, or Mike and Mike for that matter. Their radio division's been struggling for years. Morning Drive is arguably the most important time slot in radio. Your morning show sets the tone for the rest of the day. You have someone drawing big ratings in the morning, that audience will naturally spill over into the afternoon. For some reason, though, over the last couple of years, ESPN decided that it would be a brilliant strategy to combine a duo of embarrassing failures with Keyshawn Johnson and have them be the flagship show of their radio division. The two embarrassing failures that I'm talking about, Max Kellerman, Jay Williams. Now on the surface, it makes sense why you would combine Max and JJ. They have something in common. They both share a passionate hatred for white privilege. Max Kellerman hates white privilege because his privilege has never been enough to make him a superstar after being with ESPN for, over 20 years now. JJ Williams, he hates white privilege because he feels it's responsible for taking opportunities from marginalized groups, which is ironic when you think about it, since the evil white man is considered a minority at the worldwide leader in woke, the network that has become BET. The duo of embarrassing failures, along with Keyshawn Johnson, they have struggled to draw an audience on ESPN Radio. Earlier this year, ratings were released for last fall in major markets for sports radio across the country. Guess how many major markets ESPN Radio ranked number 1? Hell, guess how many major markets ESPN Radio ranked in the top 5? 0. Most they struggled to rank in the top 10. New York City, the trio ranked dead last. Chicago, they ranked outside the top 5. Ratings have gotten so bad for ESPN Radio, there's a lot of major markets where they don't even have an affiliate. They have no presence. Now, I haven't listened to terrestrial radio in over a decade, but it appears to me that local sports talk radio has shifted. The shows that dominate local markets, they tend to focus more on local and regional teams. ESPN Radio is nationally focused, which is probably one of the reasons they've been struggling. But even if that wasn't the case, the trio of Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, and Jay Williams, they wouldn't have worked anyway. This afternoon, ESPN announced that they were finally putting their remaining affiliates out of their misery by canceling this trio of huge embarrassing failures. Now, ESPN made sure to include in this announcement that all 3 of these dudes still have a place at our network. We will continue to extend their invitation to our weekly butt bongo party. Yeah. They're still collecting woke welfare for now. Keyshawn Johnson, he's an easy fix. You can just move him to ESPN's atrocious coverage of the NFL. Maybe pair him up with Mina Kimes so she can learn something about the NFL from someone who actually, played in the league. More than likely, Jay Williams, he's on his way out at ESPN. Week or two ago, he was complaining about the environment at ESPN. I can't be myself. ESPN won't allow me to say what I want to say. I have to censor myself when discussing mythical racism. They keep telling me to tone down my disdain for the evil white man. I have no doubt that Jay Williams is being truthful here. He's not the first on-air personality to come out publicly and complain about being handcuffed by management at ESPN, which, to be honest with you, this is one of the biggest problems at the worldwide leader in woke. When you have shitfucks complaining about being censored at the wokest network on television, you've got a serious problem. The reason ESPN has become so boring, it's because everyone working there lacks authenticity. Everything is so robotic, so polished. It's just painfully boring television. But the most interesting piece of this equation to me is the future of Max Kellerman. If you want a prime example of what a loyal employee looks like, they look and dress like Max Kellerman. This dude's been shit on so many times, he's developed a taste for it. ESPN has bent him over and bruised his caboose countless times without the benefit of Preparation H. Max Kellerman, he shows up to work the next morning asking for a bigger cucumber. Most people don't know this. Around the Horn, that was the brainchild of Max Kellerman. He hosted the show for, I think it was about a year. Then ESPN took the show from him and gave it to Tony Reali. Don't worry, Maximus, we've got big plans for you. We're going to give you a new and improved contract. Big money. Yeah, that never happened. Max Kellerman, he ended up signing with Fox Sports. They gave him a show called IMAX. KC, I've never heard of that bullshit. Yeah, neither has anyone else because no one was watching. It was canceled after one season of Bomani Jones' level of failure. Max Kellerman, he ends up returning to ESPN where he bounces around the network covering boxing, sitting behind the desk at ESPN News, programs that attract a minimal audience. He hosted Sports Nation for a while. Failure. Finally, he gets his big break in 2016. After 2 decades of loyal service, ESPN finally gave Max Kellerman the biggest break of his career. They paired him up with Stephen A. Smith on Woke Take. But just like every other show Max Kellerman's been involved with, the end result was the same. Huge embarrassing failure. This afternoon, I dug through my video archives looking for a clip of Stephen A. Smith after it was announced that he had engaged in woke love with Max Kellerman for the final time. Stephen A., he was being interviewed by Sports Illustrated. They asked him why he filed for divorce from Max Kellerman. From the perspective of a professional wanker spanker, this doesn't make any sense. Woke Illustrated is notorious for their pride. They identify with the G's in LGBT. For woke men, Max Kellerman's easy on the eyes. He's well-spoken. He's a good conversationalist on those romantic dinner dates at the Shag and Dragon. In their eyes, Stephen A. Smith divorcing Skip Bayless, that was understandable. Skippy Bebe's old. His propeller doesn't respond to the grease like it did in the past. But divorcing Max Kellerman? A male birthing person in his prime years of fertilization? That didn't make any sense. The explanation given by Stephen A. Smith 2 years ago as to why he split from Max Kellerman, it was extremely telling. Watch it for yourself, and I'm going to explain why.
Chemistry was an issue. And, we needed to be better. I wasn't pointing the finger at him. I was saying we did not work as a pair. I think that Max is one of the nicest guys in the world. He's incredibly knowledgeable about his boxing and other sports, by the way. If I sat up there and I said, it's his fault, that's a different argument. That's not what I said. What I said is we don't work together.
There are 2 things that really stuck out to me here. Number 1, Max Kellerman is the nicest guy in the world. That's great if Max Kellerman is your babysitter. That's great if Max Kellerman is the doctor helping you with your gender-affirming care. But in the business of television and the business of media, nice guys get taken advantage of. You know why Stephen A. Smith is a star? He's not afraid to be an asshole. You know why Howard Stern was a superstar in radio? He wasn't afraid to offend you. The second thing that stuck out to me, Stephen A. Smith said he and Max Kellerman didn't work well together. They didn't have chemistry. Translation: Max Kellerman was afraid to challenge Stephen A. Smith. He was afraid to stand up to him. And when a dude is afraid of another dude, he opens himself up to being disrespected. Chemistry has been a problem for Max Kellerman throughout his career at ESPN. Name one show where Max Kellerman was the star. Name one show where Max Kellerman was able to develop chemistry with others. Max Kellerman has the looks of a star with the mentality of a role player. The dude's brilliant, but if you don't have the ability to make your brilliance relatable, you're never going to make it. But Monty Jones is brilliant too. You know what else he is? A huge embarrassing failure. I don't know if Max Kellerman ever got over his divorce with Stephen A. Smith. He didn't just utilize the woke shovel to bury Max Kellerman's media career. He pulled out the fucking bulldozer. Now, there are rumors that another round of layoffs are coming at ESPN. And I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised when Max Kellerman is a part of them. When Stephen A. Smith divorced him, ESPN gave Max Kellerman a consolation prize by giving him some meaningless show at 2 in the afternoon. As soon as ESPN signed Pat McAfee, what did they do? They canceled Max Kellerman. And today they cancel him on radio. The hard truth is, Max Kellerman is not a star. He's not a star in a star-driven business. ESPN has been paying him millions of dollars to not draw an audience, not relate to an audience. If you're Bomani Jones, you can get away with that. Bomani Jones is untouchable because ESPN would be accused of mythical racism if they fired him. Max Kellerman doesn't have that luxury. Max Kellerman, he was born with white privilege, and all white privilege gets you at ESPN is a complimentary cucumber when they boot your white ass out the door. But give me your thoughts. ESPN Radio cancels their flagship morning show. Could we see ESPN Radio cease to exist in the coming years? Also, Max Kellerman, is his career with ESPN over? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.